look it over to make sure it was correct, address, telephone, employment, oh yes, everything's correct. Well then, sir, would you please sign the documents and date them. Date them. Date. Date them.
D-A-T-E.
Right. Put the date that you're signing, maybe October 1st, 2018.
Perfect.
Sign and date. You hear that quite often if you're sign. Right. Not quite. Sign and date. Would you please sign and date? Name, date. James Martin, October 1st, 2018. Thank you. Sign and date. Any other questions about this? Remember the pronunciation. Monthly. Applied. Just a little. Mortgage. Rented. 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 Not lent, but rent. Lent is up here. The sound, L sound is right here. Lent, 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 lent. Rent, 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 rent. R down here. That's the whole difference. Lent and rent. Very close in sound, but very different in meaning. Lent and rent. Bet the rent on Kent. Ooh, what's that mean? There was a very famous jockey, horse jockey in the races in America. He's still riding, as a matter of fact, but he was so good years ago when he was a young guy. He was so good that the joke was, oh, is he riding? Well then, bet the rent on Kent. His name was Kent de Sormo. Bet the rent on Kent. What does that mean? Bet the rent on Kent. That was the big joke at the track. Everybody used to say it when he was riding, because he was such a good rider, and still is a very good rider. But to bet the rent on Kent, it means the money that you pay every month, let's say the $700 that you have to pay for your apartment, don't worry about it. Bet it on Kent, and you'll win. Bet the rent on Kent. That meant he was so good at winning that you could take the chance of even betting your rent, the money that you had to pay. If you didn't pay the rent, you're out. Goodbye, you're gone. So
How to spell Kent?
K-E-N-T. K-E-N-T. Bet the rent on Kent. That was the famous quote at the racetracks on the East Coast. Yeah. Bet the rent on Kent. You were so sure that he was going to win that you would even take your rent money that you had to pay. You had to have it at the end of the month to pay for the horse that Kent was riding. We'll bet it on Kent. Bet the rent on Kent. That was a famous, I'll never forget hearing that all day. Any other questions about this? You understand jockey, horse race? Horse races, the jockey, the rider of the horse? The jockey, the rider? Right, okay. Any other questions? Should take everybody to the racetrack one day. They're moving, yeah. They're moving the track. Okay. Okay, the museum displayed several rare books published in the mid-1800s. They were donated by a young man who inherited them from his father. He was the heir to his father's estate. The museum depended on such donations to expand its display of rare and original books by famous authors. Famous authors. The museum displayed several rare books published in the mid-1800s. They were donated by a young man who inherited them from his father. He was the heir to his father's estate. The museum depended on such donations to expand its display of rare and original books by famous authors. Famous authors. Okay.
The museums displayed several rare books published in the mid-1800s. They were donated by a young man who inherited them from his father. He was the heir to his father's estate. The museum depended on such donations to expand its display of rare and original books by famous authors.
By famous authors. The museum displayed several rare books published in the mid-1800s. The mid-1800s. They were donated by a young man who inherited them from his father. He was the heir to his father's estate. The museum depended on such donations to expand its display of rare books by famous authors. Authors. It's almost like it's A-U